I just don't like that Bite by Night doesn't seem to do anything different. Like, not really. But they're playing it so safe, it feels. There is real effort put into the game, and I can't imagine how long it took to make. It just... I don't know, I could just be spitballing for like absolutely no reason. It just seems like the game is playing it a little too safe.
What you just saw was the original video I made on Bite by Night. A video that was made before the game actually even came out, when content creators were first getting their hands on the game to show it to the public. When I first saw Eggmasterplan's video on it, I hadn't felt much towards the game. I had just clocked it as another modern ASIM game that was overhyped, carried by the IP used for its main gimmick. A game that felt obsolete, because it seemed to fail to innovate past a few mechanics that didn't really seem to further the gameplay too much. But after having played it for a few days, I will admit, there are some things that thoroughly and pleasantly surprised me about the game. There are also some things that reaffirmed my suspicions on how the game would generally play out, though. This video is meant to be a follow-up to the original video, though this time it'll be less negative as a whole, because there are some things that genuinely surprised me. That doesn't make the game perfect, though. So consider this my review of the game. With all of that out of the way, if you liked the video, like it. If you disliked it, dislike it. Subscribe and join my community Discord. Link is in the pinned comment. And let's not waste any more time and hop into the video. Bite by Night is a fun game. I want to get that out of the way because it's probably the biggest positive that I have about the game. The game is very fun. When I did my 8-hour stream with Eggmasterplan, Mysticola, and Hyrulean King, I had an absolute blast. Like, peak outcome memories type of fun. Of course, that could just be because I was playing with some absolutely really stellar people, but I don't think that's the full picture. After all, there is a reason why games like these become so popular so fast. They're addicting, and this game's no exception, especially when it comes to the killer gameplay. Okay, let me be clear. The whole stamina criticism thing applies here too. I'm not suddenly all for the modern ASIM format on Roblox. But I will say, the killers themselves all feel fairly unique to play. There aren't a whole lot of ASIMs that have the killers stand out too much. Sure, you have Fleetway from Outcome Memories and Baldi from Pillar Chase 2, but one of the things that I feel like ASIM games really struggle with is killer identity. What I mean by that is that no ASIM really has killers that stand out too much from other ASIM games in that niche. For example, Violence District. They have so many DBD-inspired killers to the point that the game barely has an identity outside of being a DBD clone. While some of the moves I do feel like were inspired by DBD, it sort of makes it its own in this game. That's not typically something that many ASIM games can accomplish. I mean, Ennard is probably the most unique killer I've seen in a long time, even if he is extremely buggy and clunky. The other killers sort of follow the same sort of principle too. They are fairly unbalanced from each other. Insert poor Ennard getting sent to the looping shadow realm. No killer in an ASIM game really feels like these guys do. They have their own personality, if that makes any sense. Speaking of personality, dear God, the graphics. I'm just gonna say it, the game is beautiful, the lighting, the models, the textures, the VFX. Hell, I'll even throw in the voice acting and the OST too. Everything about this game's art style is really pleasing to the eyes and ears. Nothing quite matches how insanely sicko mode they went with this game, outside of that one Friday the 13th game. Like, dude, that shit's not even Roblox anymore. Whoever is on the art team, pat yourselves on the back and get a cookie. You've earned it. It's crazy how you can go from the solemn woods to a bright factory and even a pizzeria after hours and it all still feels like it's the same game, but I feel like they've nailed it. In terms of art style, you've really done the series justice, and with all of that, at least on my laptop, the game runs beautifully. They have pretty good optimization for a game that looks this good. Considering other ASIM games give my PC a brain tumor trying to play them, that's a huge plus. Overall, I think Bite by Night had probably one of the best launches of an ASIM game I've ever seen. It seemed to go very smoothly. But not all things can be positive, and unfortunately I have many gripes with the game as well. Don't get me wrong, most of these are not just a Bite by Night issue, but I feel as though they're specifically exacerbated in Bite by Night because of how hyped the game was. Everyone and their mother was waiting for this game to come out. But in order to prove my point, I'll have to show you the other side of the coin in this game. The yin to the killer's yang, the survivors. The survivor gameplay in here is about as cookie cutter as you can get. You could not have made a more generic moveset for these guys if you tried. The fighter has a block and a stun. Wonder where I've seen that before. The medic has heal and a self-heal, and the customer has a self-heal and a speed boost. 3 of the 4 characters don't really feel like they are a part of the game. The Security Guard is an amazing example of a FNAF-styled moveset. You have the cams for recon, and you have the taser for support to get the killer off of someone's back. This is honestly fairly unique, and it fits the FNAF vibes perfectly. Like a glove, actually. But the other three feel disjointed, because unlike the Security Guard, these guys are mostly derived, or at least heavily inspired by, other ASIM classes. The only one that really gets a pass in my book is the Medic, because, well, they're a medic. But you still could have played around with abilities like being able to use an adrenaline shot, or even coagulants to make whoever used it on take less damage for a time, or literally anything else to make them stand out from the multitude of other ASIM games that have a medic or healer role. Also, the looping in this game. My god, this is probably the worst game I've ever played when it comes to looping outside of Dead by Daylight. They said that they had structured the map to not promote looping in Bite by Night. They said that in my comments on my last video. The looping is so bad in this game. I have seen people against competent killers no-hit last man standings, especially on Forest and Factory, because it feels like there's just door, and then there's another door, and then there's another door. And on Forest, the looping on Forest is insane. There's so many spots, and they removed one of the dead ends and added a door on Forest, so the already fairly survivor-sided map is now probably the worst map to play on in this game. I'm gonna rip off the band-aid a little and take back a little bit of what I said earlier. The maps do look astounding, but they're incredibly annoying to play on. There are so many props you can get stuck on, corners to get snagged on. Some of them really feel bad to play for other reasons, like the Forest map, which is probably the most complained about map in this game. But funny thing, I actually don't mind playing on Forest as either killer or survivor. The problem I have is Pizzeria. It's so annoying to navigate as killer. You get fat shamed on every little corner. The security doors are annoying. Everything about a lot of these maps are very annoying to play on. It's very clunky and it doesn't feel smooth. Actually, speaking of the doors for a second, there's very little FNAF themed elements in this game. I did point this out in my last video and it still remains true here. Outside of Pizzeria, there really is no FNAF mechanics or objectives placed into the game to help it feel like the game takes place in Five Nights at Freddy's. With a game series as rich as FNAF is, there is so many different things you can pull from. I listed several mini ideas that could help go a long way in the original video if you want to check that out, but the game as a whole doesn't really feel like a FNAF ASIM. It feels like an ASIM with FNAF characters. Does that make sense? Like, the game is obviously centered around FNAF, but without mechanics that pay homage to the series, it ends up feeling bland. Like, most of these characters could just be random Joe Schmoes, and the game wouldn't suffer too much from that. Plus, adding these mechanics could help make the Survivor gameplay less cookie-cutter as a whole as well, giving you extra things to do, and it could open up the doors for interesting counterplays for certain killers. I get why they didn't. They poured so much effort into the models and the art style that having the game fail would probably have been a very debilitating thing to their mental health. So you have to stick to a formula that worked, but the game also just suffers from the dev team playing it too safe. It makes the game feel mostly like any other ASIM. There's not much that sets this apart outside of fancy graphics, and I really think that is a missed opportunity to make something unique and special. Not to say that what we got was bad, it just plays so safe that the game ends up falling into the same modern ASIM trap on Roblox that most games seem to fall under nowadays. It's just pretty sad to see. In fact, when I was playing my stream with the other three guys, I struggled to come up with things to say about the game outside of, oh yeah, the graphics look cool, I guess. That's the only thing that I could think of at the time, because nothing really stood out to me. People in my chat also were saying the same thing, like the game doesn't feel like a FNAF game. It doesn't feel unique. I wholeheartedly believe that if the game wasn't centered around FNAF, it would not be as popular as it is right now. And that's what makes me so, that ticks me off a little. I feel like the whole game is being piggybacked by it being centered around FNAF, and they're not paying homage to the FNAF series. I don't know, maybe that's just me. Yeah, the whole game feels like a big missed opportunity to have some more really cool shit in there. One thing I am particularly concerned about is the microtransactions in this game. For a bit of context, Scott Cawthon, before he gave the rights of FNAF to Steel Wool Studios, had not only accepted FNAF fan games, but embraced them, even opening a FNAF fan game universe initiative. With a caveat, of course. See, devs are free to make these games whenever, but they weren't allowed to make money off the game. So, Bite by Night has microtransactions. Now, I don't know what if they have, like, are in cahoots with Scott or whatever, but as far as I know, they are not. Well, Well, I do know they are at least a little bit because they said they were talking to Scott Cawthon as we speak. But I don't think Scott Cawthon would allow them to make money off of Five Nights at Freddy's. Even if the game does have microtransactions, everything I do believe is free to play if you grind enough things. So you can low-key just remove the microtransactions and this whole little like bit right here wouldn't even be needed. I don't know. Just thought I'd point it out a little bit. These are mostly just miscellaneous things that I really couldn't fit neatly anywhere else in the video because I really suck at script writing. We'll just rapid fire through them because I can tell you're already bored. Hitboxes feel janky for both sides, especially for the poor security guard and Ennard for some reason. Certain characters in LMS feel really weak, like the guard and the medic, especially against Springtrap and the Mimic, who have ways to just say no to the guard's taser and ranged moves. It would be cool if the characters that were weaker in LMS had a little more oomph to them to help them survive longer. The generator gameplay for me specifically is somewhat annoying because I'm colorblind. Maybe add some shapes on the chords or something to help make that better. This fuck-ass animation that happens if you let go of your sprint and movement button. I hate this thing with a burning passion. It gets me killed so often. Ennard's little minions, full stop for both sides. They just don't work, and when they do, it's the most annoying thing ever for survivors. And a few of the maps only having one exit, making it really easy for survivors to just go to the exit preemptively or to have Springtrap and Ennard just completely lock down the area with their minions or traps. So, my thoughts on Bite by Night as a whole? It's a fun game, but it suffers from not being too original and playing it too safe. This is the type of game that I feel like I can hop on, play a few good matches, then hop off for a few days. Enjoyable in bursts, but the game really shows its problems when you play it for too long. The overall ranking? That's a tough one to say, because it has a lot of good merits and also a lot of bad ones. But in my opinion, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. And yes, I do plan on making content on it because there's a lot of content potential in this game, and I do have fun with it, even if it's not my favorite game as a whole on Roblox. Anyways, if you liked the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. Subscribe and join my community Discord, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Also, don't tell me to KMS in my comments this time. My last Bite by Night video had a huge problem with that. There was like 50 people that said that. Thank you. Goodbye.